Hey everyone, today I've got a powerful and transformative story that will make you rethink everything you know about faith and identity. It's the journey of Simon Davenport, a man who was once openly homosexual but had his entire life turned upside down after a near-death experience where he encountered Jesus Christ. This encounter led him to make a dramatic shift in his beliefs and lifestyle. Trust me, you won't want to miss this. Before we dive in, drop a comment letting us know where you're tuning in from. And if you haven't subscribed yet, make sure to hit that button and turn on notifications for more incredible stories. Hi, I'm Simon, and at 47, I found myself living in Asheville, North Carolina. Before diving into my near-death experience, let me backtrack a bit to explain who I was. I resided in a two-story home close to Lake Crescent, working as a graphic designer at a local ad agency. I was openly gay and had been happily involved with Theo for 3 years. That day began just like any other. I was in my trusty Subaru Outback, enjoying my favorite caramel macchiato on my way to work. The autumn leaves painted the scenery beautifully, and the crisp air was invigorating. I had just wrapped up a call with Theo, discussing our plans for the weekend, when suddenly, everything changed. Out of the blue, a huge moose appeared right in front of me on Route 36. While encounters with moose aren't rare around here, nothing could prepare me for the shock of seeing a 1,500-pound creature blocking my way. I swerved desperately to avoid a collision, but at 65 miles per hour, my car lost control. I still remember the surreal moment as my coffee cup flew through the air while my vehicle rolled down a steep slope. The crash was fierce. My car smashed into several trees before finally stopping at the bottom of the ravine. The force crumpled the driver's side, leaving me trapped between the seat and the steering wheel. It was later revealed that a truck driver passing by spotted my car's taillights peeking through the trees and promptly called 911. Rescue efforts were anything but straightforward. The rugged terrain made it challenging for emergency responders to reach me, and it took over an hour to extract me from the wreckage. By that point, I had lost a significant amount of blood due to multiple injuries: 4 broken ribs, a punctured lung, internal bleeding, and severe head trauma. Fragments of the rescue cling to my memory: the screeching of metal being cut, shouts of urgency from the responders, and the whirring of a helicopter's blades. They airlifted me to the Blue Ridge Regional Medical Center. Once there, doctors later disclosed that I had died twice during the flight, first for 3 minutes, and then for 4. During those moments when my heart had stopped beating, I experienced a profound sense of drifting away from my body. It was not fear that enveloped me, but an overwhelming feeling of peace, a warmth that I had never known existed. As I floated above the chaos, I could see the frantic efforts of the medical team working on me. I felt a sense of detachment, a realization that I was witnessing something extraordinary, something that transcended the physical world. In this ethereal space, I encountered vibrant light and what felt like a chorus of joy. I could not see faces, but the presence was undeniably comforting. It was as if every worry and regret I carried was suddenly washed away. Images of my life flashed before my eyes, not like a film, but as a vivid collage of emotions. Times of laughter with Theo, struggles that seemed insurmountable, and moments of growth that defined who I had become. Amidst this, I sensed a presence guiding me, showing me the interconnectedness of all souls. When I came to, staring at the sterile lights of the hospital room, I was engulfed in a profound sense of purpose. I realized that the experiences I had, good and bad, contributed to my soul's journey in ways I hadn't fully appreciated. Those moments of clarity led me to a pivotal decision to live authentically and embrace love in all its forms, starting with deeper connections not just with Theo, but with myself. While Theo was at work, he received a distressing call. He hurried to the hospital, but I was already deep in emergency surgery by the time he arrived. The medical team gave me only a 20% chance of survival. I needed multiple surgeries to stop the internal bleeding and repair the organ damage. What transpired in those critical moments when my heart ceased functioning changed my entire perspective on life. The experience felt extraordinarily vivid and undeniably real. My whole perspective on life, death, and everything I thought I understood about existence has been utterly shaken. Unlike those serene and comforting experiences people often recount during near-death episodes, what swept over me was something far more unsettling, something that lingers with me still. Before this incident, I was quite content. I had a wonderful partner, a fulfilling career, and life felt manageable. I never doubted my choices or my beliefs. Although I grew up in a Catholic family, church was a distant memory from my high school days. Faith didn't play a role in my daily life, and I thought that was perfectly fine. I believed that God, if He existed, would accept me just as I was. But then, everything changed when I found myself clinically dead. In those profound moments, I realized just how mistaken I had been. The experience rocked me to my core, compelling me to face truths I'd spent years dodging. When my heart stopped, everything shifted. It wasn't a gentle drift into slumber or a simple blackout. It was abrupt and vividly clear. I found myself floating above the helicopter, witnessing the frantic efforts of the paramedics below trying to revive my unresponsive body. Strangely enough, I felt detached, as if I were merely an observer in a movie about someone else's life. Then came the tunnel. It wasn't the soft, welcoming light people often talk about. It was a chaotic vortex pulling me in with relentless power. The sensation was terrifying, like being yanked through a vacuum at breakneck speed. Unfamiliar colors whipped around me, and a profound humming resonance echoed through my being as I hurtled through this passage. As I navigated through the tunnel, a wave of awareness washed over me. It wasn't simply a replay of memories. It felt like I was experiencing every moment of my life all at once. But this time, I felt the weight of my actions. Every lie I'd told, every individual I'd hurt, every selfish choice, each bore a tangible weight that pressed against me. It was as if I was being held accountable by some universal force, and I had to confront the realities of my existence in stark detail. The emotional pain ran deeper than any physical ache I had known, flooding me with regret and sorrow. Yet, amid the weightiness of my reflections, flickers of joy surfaced. I remembered the laughter shared with friends, the warmth of my partner's embrace, and the moments that brought light to my days. This juxtaposition of light and darkness brought forth a question that reverberated through my mind: what truly mattered? In that infinite, timeless space, I understood how interconnected we all are, how the kindness we extend to others can ripple through lives. Time itself seemed irrelevant. It was a shift in perspective. Every fleeting moment I had taken for granted now felt like a precious commodity. The memories, the good and the painful, were all part of the tapestry of my being, woven together in ways I had never appreciated before. As the chaos of the tunnel began to fade, I sensed the pull of gravity bringing me back toward my body, but I wasn't ready to return. I wished to hold on to this newfound awareness, to fully embrace the truths laid bare before me. I felt a yearning to change, to mend what was broken. This realization became a call to action, urging me to live differently, to love fiercely, and to seek meaning in every moment. My breath stuttered back into my chest as the paramedics revived me, but as the darkness began to retreat, I clung to the hope that I could return to life with a purpose renewed. Even as I regained consciousness, the profound clarity of my experience lingered. It was a gift that I vowed never to forget. The most gut-wrenching realizations were tied to my relationships. I saw Theo, but not in the affectionate halo I always preferred to believe in. Instead, I witnessed how our supposed love was inflicting spiritual damage on both of us. Each intimate moment we shared transformed into dark stains on our souls, like ink swirling in crystal-clear water. I also revisited my childhood, recalling the first signs of feeling different from other boys. I remembered the whispers I dared not share, the furtive glances exchanged with friends during games that had suggested a deeper bond, but were brushed aside as innocent fun. The journey I went through was filled with confusion, fear, and ultimately a rebellion against what I had always known. It's funny how now, looking back at everything from a fresh viewpoint, I realized that straying from my early beliefs had drawn me further from what I once believed to be true. The experience in that tunnel felt like an eternity, though it likely lasted only moments. Suddenly, it was as if the chaos around me just halted. I found myself in this immense expanse that was impossible to put into words, neither dark nor light. It simply existed. I wasn't alone, though. A presence began to approach, and even without seeing a physical form, I instantly knew who it was. It was Jesus Christ. It was a moment of undeniable recognition, like rediscovering a long-forgotten truth. His presence was so profound, it radiated pure love, intertwined with a commanding authority that brought me to the brink of kneeling. However, this wasn't the serene figure from childhood illustrations. No, this was the true King of Kings, the ultimate judge of existence. In that moment, every excuse I held onto for my choices fell apart. There was nowhere to hide, not from him, and certainly not from myself. Jesus didn't speak in words, but the message pierced through my consciousness. I felt an intense love that nearly overwhelmed me, but it wasn't a blanket acceptance of everything I had done. Instead, it revealed how my way of life, something I had convinced myself was perfectly fine, was actually in stark contrast to what he intended. The clarity was undeniable. My sexual orientation wasn't condemned. Rather, it was the choice to act upon it and to define myself by it that was at fault. I became aware of how those decisions rippled out, affecting not just me, but everyone around me. Encouraging others to embrace their homosexuality under the guise of being true to themselves meant I was inadvertently steering them away from salvation. Then came the toughest part. I had to confront the void I felt within, the spaces filled with misguided beliefs and the pain of isolation. It was this aching realization that the connection I sought with others had often been a mere illusion, twisted by my own fears. I began to understand that real community begins with authenticity, but my version of authenticity had been a facade, built on a foundation of rebellion against my true self. Each revelation unfolded like a piece of a mosaic, gradually painting a picture that illuminated my heart's longings and fears. In the depths of that presence, I felt the weight of accountability. How many times had I chosen convenience over truth? How many relationships had I sacrificed on the altar of self-indulgence? Even in the moments I claimed to be vulnerable and open, I realized I often shielded my truest self, believing the facade was better accepted. This acknowledgement was painful, yet liberating, a paradox that forced me to reflect on what genuine love should embody. Courage swelled within me as I considered the possibility of a new path, one that originated from honesty, not just with others, but primarily with myself. What if, instead of seeking validation through transient pleasures, I sought the deeper connection to my Creator and to the people who truly mattered? Perhaps acceptance would come, not from conforming to someone else's expectations, but by embracing the fullness of who I was meant to be. This internal struggle opened the door to a journey of healing and reconciliation, both with myself and others. Understanding that love is characterized by growth, sacrifice, and commitment, I began to envision relationships grounded not in need, but in a shared pursuit of grace. As the presence of Jesus lingered, I felt empowered to walk this arduous path, knowing that true love starts with acceptance, forgiveness, and ultimately transformation. Jesus allowed me to see many others, countless souls who had made the same choices as I had. They were in a space I can only call a holding place. It wasn't outright hell, but it surely wasn't heaven either. They were caught in their own rationalizations, unable to advance because they refused to confront the reality of their decisions. What hit me hardest was recognizing that many of these souls had been religious, even Christians. Yet they had twisted the scriptures to fit their lifestyle instead of adhering to God's true design. This purposeful misinterpretation had built a wall between them and genuine salvation. Eventually, the presence of Jesus led me to witness much more that day. I still feel uneasy when I think about what I witnessed. It was nothing like the silly version of hell you might see in cartoons. Instead, it was a terrifying realm where God's love was completely absent, a place where souls faced the full effects of their choices. It struck me then that hell wasn't some punishment conjured by God out of fury, but rather a natural outcome of choosing to remain apart from Him forever. Those souls had made their decisions during their lives on earth, and those decisions were now set in stone. Things took a turn when Jesus began revealing His truths about sexuality and gender as He intended. I realized that the union between male and female transcended mere physical connection. It symbolized a profound spiritual reality mirroring God's relationship with humanity. As I dove deeper into this understanding, I could see how society's acceptance of alternative lifestyles wasn't a step forward, but rather a clever form of deception. Each departure from the traditional concepts of marriage and gender roles signified a movement away from divine truths. The insights kept unfolding, leading me to perceive the spiritual ramifications behind events like pride parades, gender transition procedures, and same-sex marriages. Even though these occasions seemed joyful on the surface, I could sense a shroud of spiritual darkness enveloping them. But what struck me hardest was the realization of how my own advocacy had led others astray. Every time I had championed LGBTQ+ rights, I was unknowingly nudging people away from salvation. The burden of this responsibility felt overwhelming. Through my experiences, Jesus brought to mind specific moments, conversations I'd had, posts I'd shared on social media, and young individuals I had influenced. In those moments of realization, I could almost hear the echoes of my own arguments, once so passionately delivered, yet now laden with consequences I never anticipated. There were faces I could remember, youthful eyes that sparkled with hope as I unwittingly steered them into choices I now grieved. Each encounter haunted me, laden with an urgency to seek forgiveness not only for myself, but also for those I had misled. The weight of repentance grew stronger as I started to witness the transformational nature of true communion with Christ. Those who had once been ensnared by the same ideologies began to find clarity and healing through the Word. It was as if the scales were falling from their eyes, allowing them to see not just the fruits of deception, but also the beauty of His intended design for their lives. Their journeys back to faith were filled with struggles, but through them, I learned that grace is just as powerful as it is necessary. This experience entailed a profound shift in my perspective and a call to action. I felt a renewed strength to share the truths I had learned, to guide others to an understanding deeply rooted in love rather than condemnation. While I would always acknowledge the complexity and difficulties involved, I sought to present the gospel as it was meant to be, an offer of hope and redemption for every soul, regardless of their past. The realization that I could still play a role in leading others back to salvation filled me with a sense of purpose that I hadn't felt in years. Each memory weighed heavily on me, like a heavy stone tied around my neck, making me acutely aware of my part in leading others off course. Yet, amidst all this realization, I felt no condemnation from Jesus. There was only a deep, overwhelming love and a desire for me to grasp the truth. He opened my eyes to the silent struggles of many of my gay friends. Despite their outward displays of happiness and pride, many were grappling with their choices. Then visions of my future played out before me, presenting two distinct paths. In one, I persisted in my current lifestyle, ultimately facing dire eternal consequences. In the other, I accepted the truth, stepped away from my gay lifestyle, and guided others to do the same. The stark contrast between these two futures was undeniable. I came to understand that my same-sex attractions weren't a personal failing, but rather the fallout from various influences in my life. Reflecting on my journey, I encountered many influences and experiences that shaped me. Ultimately, how I reacted to these challenges rested solely on my shoulders. In those moments, I felt a profound strength offered by Jesus, a strength meant to help resist certain desires, even if they lingered throughout my life. The most impactful realization came when I met individuals who had successfully left the gay lifestyle. Their journeys were fraught with challenges, but their joy in embracing the truth was overwhelming. I witnessed the crowns of victory awaiting them in heaven, symbols of their hard-fought battles and unwavering faith during their time on earth. Each story was unique, filled with both struggle and redemption. I remember one individual, Alex, who spoke passionately about his past, but now radiated a joy that was infectious. His experience of being restored to a healthy identity resonated deeply within me, reinforcing the idea that transformation was not only possible, but also beautiful. Through this experience, a significant understanding dawned on me. True love isn't merely about endorsing everyone's choices. It's about guiding others toward God's truth, especially when that truth is tough or unpopular. I recognized that love often requires one to be vulnerable and to challenge their comfort zones, not just for oneself, but for the sake of others who may be lost or struggling. Then came a pivotal moment that changed everything. Suddenly, I found myself in what felt like a divine courtroom. Instead of being judged, I faced a choice. I could return to Earth, equipped with my new understanding, or I could accept judgment on the spot. The gravity of that decision was staggering. Choosing to return meant a complete overhaul of my life. I faced the loss of friends, the likelihood of criticism, and saying goodbye to Theo, someone I deeply cared for. However, I understood that remaining meant accepting judgment for my unrepented sins. Every possibility spun before me, illustrating the potential for conflict and conversion alike. I could become a beacon for others yearning for hope, or I could retreat into a past that no longer served me. Jesus illuminated the path of my return, showing me how it could serve a larger purpose. I envisioned not just my own journey, but the journeys of countless others who may find solace in my story. The weight of responsibility felt immense, yet I found solace in the thought that I could make a difference. I realized my experiences could be a beacon of hope for others ensnared in similar lifestyles. He helped me see countless individuals grappling with their gay identities, too scared or confused to seek change. A vision unfolded before me, revealing a support network that awaited my arrival. Genuine Christians ready to help me transition, counselors who grasped the spiritual dimension of sexuality, and even some unexpected companions. What moved me the most was seeing the profound impact my testimony could have. I envisioned specific people, some familiar and others strangers, who might be transformed by my story. Their eternal destinies could be rewritten if I were willing to share the truth. Before finalizing my choice, I received one last vision, myself addressing large gatherings, recounting my testimony, and assisting others in finding liberation from their struggles. I saw joyous tears as those around me healed and restored themselves, embracing God's design for sexuality. Yet, I could not ignore the cost associated with this path. I witnessed myself being labeled a bigot, a traitor to the LGBTQ+ community, and worse. It's incredible how life can flip upside down in an instant. A few years back, I faced a storm of anger and hostility from people I once called friends. Social media felt like a battlefield, with messages attacking my safety. Yet amidst all that chaos, I found a surprising sense of calm that comes from living in authenticity. That's when I realized I had a choice to make. With my heart racing, a mix of fear and resolve took over, urging me to return. Once that decision was made, a wave of peace and purpose washed over me, even though I was fully aware of the challenges waiting for me. Just before I went back to my physical self, I received a profound message. My journey wasn't meant for judgment, but for love and guiding others toward the truth I had uncovered. It was essential for me to approach this mission with compassion, knowing I, too, had been in the dark before. Waking up in the hospital was almost like a rebirth. The pain in my body was overwhelming, but it didn't even compare to the profound spiritual awakening I had just gone through. Theo was right there beside me, holding my hand, but deep down, I understood our relationship had shifted forever. The first few weeks tested me deeply. Trying to explain everything I experienced to Theo broke both our hearts. Each time I spoke, I felt a tug of war between vulnerability and protection. It became evident that clear communication was vital, but also incredibly difficult. I found myself relying on scripture and prayer to frame these complex feelings. The more I recounted my journey, the more I could see the mixed emotions reflected in his eyes, understanding, sorrow, and a sense of loss for what we once had. In subsequent conversations, we began to dissect the nuances of our relationship. We talked about the impact of societal pressures and the inner battles we both faced. Sharing these intimate moments deepened the bond of love and respect we had for one another. I could see Theo's heart was open to this new chapter, even if it seemed daunting. As the days turned into weeks, I leaned into this newfound purpose I had imagined. I started volunteering at a local community center, where I shared my story with others who were wrestling with their identities. Each encounter filled me with a sense of fulfillment, as I could see pieces of myself in those seeking guidance. It was here that I recognized that healing was a two-way street. While I shared my journey, I absorbed inspiration from others as well. With time, I learned to be gentle with myself and give grace to my healing process. I embraced the idea that transformation is not instant, but rather a journey that unfolds one day at a time. The feelings of isolation began to ebb away as I cultivated genuine friendships with those who shared similar struggles. Together, we laughed, cried, and celebrated milestones in our lives. This support system became a testament to the beauty of connection that breaks through barriers and stands resilient in the face of adversity. It became clear to me that while the path ahead was uncertain, it was rich with opportunities for growth, understanding, and love. No longer would I allow fear to govern my journey. With every story I shared, I chose faith over doubt, creating a legacy that would shine brightly for those still searching for their place in this world. He believed my head injury had warped my thinking, and that once I healed, I would see things differently. But I was certain of what I had seen. Seeking solace, I found a nurturing church community and embarked on a tough path of transformation. Some days felt incredibly hard. The same attractions didn't just vanish, but I had acquired the strength and clarity to navigate them differently. In those early days, I often found myself questioning my choices and wondering if I had made the right decision. The support of my new community became my anchor, providing not only spiritual guidance but also practical support through shared experiences. They helped me understand that doubt is a natural part of any journey involving deep introspection and change. I began to read scripture with fresh eyes, finding verses that seemed to speak directly to my struggles and doubts. My story began circulating rapidly online, and as I anticipated, the backlash from the LGBTQ+ community came crashing down. Friends turned on me, accusing me of internalized homophobia and betrayal. Yet in the midst of that rejection, I received private messages from others confiding their own uncertainties about the lifestyle. Some shared their fear of not meeting societal expectations, while others expressed a longing for a connection that they felt was missing in their current lives. Now here I am, 2 years down the line, running a support group for individuals questioning their sexual identity or looking to step away from LGBTQ+ life. It's not about coercing anyone or pushing therapy. Rather, it's about sharing love and truth and standing beside those wanting to align with God's intentions. The accident that almost took my life ended up saving it, and not just mine. Each session of our support group becomes a safe space for heartfelt discussions. Individuals share their unique stories, and together we explore themes of acceptance, identity, and faith. Many participants express their fears and hopes, and we work collaboratively to foster an environment of community where everyone feels valued and heard. Weekly, I'm uplifted by messages from individuals who have found hope and healing through my journey. Some decide to leave the lifestyle, others continue to grapple with their choices. But one thing remains constant: they know they are loved by God. My near-death experience taught me that sometimes true love means sharing hard truths because the consequences are far too significant to ignore. Yes, I may have lost my previous life, but what I've gained is immeasurable. With each new connection and every story shared, I'm reminded that transformation is possible. As we walk this path together, I am not just a leader, I am also a student, learning from the resilience of those around me. Their courage inspires me to keep moving forward, regardless of the judgments we face from the outside world. If this tale resonated with you, take a moment to give us a thumbs up and join our channel by subscribing. And hey, don't forget to tap that notification bell so you never miss out on more amazing stories that might just transform your perspective. Feel free to share this video with anyone who could use a little inspiration today.